Hi everyone, and welcome to this day's lunch briefing. Lunch briefing is where we give you a backdoor to the COP26 negotiations. And today I am joined by Annette Ejersted, who is head of the Danish delegation. Today is also a little bit special because today we are also joined by our Nordic COP26 Hub in Helsinki, and they will come through in a little bit to ask questions. We will also be taking questions here in Glasgow from the audience. But first, I want to talk a little bit to you, Annette, about your role in the negotiations. So maybe can you explain a little bit about what is the role of the Danish delegation and what part do you play in the big picture here at COP26?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for letting me come here and speak about it. Well, I'm the Danish head of delegation, so I'm supposed to try to have an overview as to where we are in the negotiations and in relations to the Danish priorities within the negotiations. Denmark is part of the EU, so we negotiate through the EU. So for that, you will not hear me behind the microphones because the EU is speaking on behalf of the EU and the 27 member states. So we have our own positions, we have our own priorities, and then we feed it into the EU coordination and try to get the EU to be on the same line as we are. So we have the most of my negotiations is within the EU, and then of course we follow the negotiations and figure out what's happening and then try to adjust in that way. We have experts in the different rooms as well, and we also have experts negotiating on behalf of the EU. So it's a bit difficult.
What priorities do Denmark have in the negotiations? What is it that you try to push in the common agenda of EU?
I think basically one of the main takeaways we would like to see from this COP is the finalization of the Paris rulebook. We have 3 outstanding elements in the rulebook, and we need to finalize that to make the Paris Agreement make it work. I can't say operational. Sorry, no. We need to have it to work, and that's one of our priorities. Then we also have our colleagues from the Foreign Affairs, so we have something about adaptation. We need to do more on adaptation. We hear the call from developing countries to say we need to do more because we do see the changes out there. So adaptation and finance for adaptation is also a priority for us. And then the overall picture of the ambition as such, keeping the 1.5 alive is, I think if you meet our minister later on, he will say that's one of our key priorities to keep 1.5 alive from this COP.
Yeah, and I heard a little bit about the Danish minister playing a little role in this whole keeping 1.5 alive up to the COP. Yeah. Can you tell a little bit more about that? What role did the Danish minister play in that?
Yeah, because the COP president, Alex Sharma, has had this notion of keeping 1.5 alive without really knowing what do we mean when we're saying 1.5 alive. So at one point he requested our minister and the minister from Grenada to make some ministerial consultations to understand what do countries think about it, what are the main outcomes that we need to have in this overall COP decision. That's going to be a cover decision. It has many names, but this is the political message to the world. And what do countries see should be in this cover decision? And they had a round of consultations with different countries around the world before the COP, and then handed in some kind of summary to the COP president to say, this is what we've heard. And then he has to take it on in the deliberations that are to come on the cover decision, which started Wednesday, and we have another session tonight. So.
Okay, and so we're a week in the negotiations. Are you tired?
Yes, I'm tired, but still I have this COP bubble that I go into when I'm at these meetings. So this is my world, so I use all my energy in here. So of course I'm tired. We have had a lot of hours and stuff like that, but I'm also excited.
And where are we right now with the negotiations a week in?
It depends. In some of the areas we have good progress, and I think I'll start another stage to say that it has been clear that we have not been able to meet in 2 years, and it's really clear that people want to engage, we want to discuss text, we want to make progress because we are behind the schedule. So that's been a very good sign. So in some areas we have good progress, in other areas we still have some challenges that we have to come over. Basically, we are to finalize tonight.
Okay.
With all the technical negotiations and hand it in to the SUBSTA chair and the SPI chair, and they will have to cover it tomorrow. And then wherever we are, basically they have to hand it into the COP presidency, and they have to find out how they're going to do it in week 2. How are they going to cover whatever we don't need?
Okay.
But we can't agree to this week.
So today is the day.
Yeah, today and tomorrow.
And
I'm quite sure it won't be today,
exciting.
Tomorrow, yes.
And then today at the COP26, the overall theme is youth. Can you maybe share a little bit about how you integrate the youth delegates in your work? I know here at the Nordic cooperation stage, I have seen a lot of young people, a lot of the youth delegates participating in panel debates and discussions. And can you maybe tell a little bit about how the Danish delegation, invite the youth into the negotiations?
We have 2 youth delegates within our delegation as such, and they are part of the delegation as I am, basically. So they can do the same things as I can do. I have access to almost the same things as I have. We coordinate with them. We try to have breakfast with them every morning. We try to discuss with them whenever we meet around. And we try to include them also within the EU preparations as such. So they know what we are doing within the EU and what the EU is doing. So for that, we try to include them as much as we can, but then also they have their own agendas and doing, as you say, a lot of things around here. So I see them in the morning and the night, but they are part of our delegation, and we try to coordinate also. Sometimes we can actually also use them to say, what do you hear and what do we hear, and then try to compare notes on this one.
Do you have somewhere where you, in your dialogue with the youth, have experienced, oh, I didn't think of that, or what a great point, or do you have any examples of where the youth has come with some points that you then have brought to the table?
I think the youth are pushing us on this ambition agenda. You have to do more, you have to commit to more, you have to finalize the things, you have to see what's actually happening out in the world and respond to those things. So I think in Denmark at least there's been this response to say we have quite ambitious climate targets ourselves. We have a youth council where they provide what we call advice or suggestions actually to the minister as well. So for that we include them. Right now I cannot find a specific thing just to mention that we have put in, but this about to have the inclusiveness. Yeah, I think that's important to have.
And they're close to the minister.
Yeah, they're close to the minister. They're close to us, and we try to have a dialogue with them.
Cool. And then I have one question before we go to questions both here from Glasgow and also from Helsinki, and that is about Article 6. So there's a lot of talk about Article 6, and I think there's a lot of people who aren't quite sure what that is. So could you maybe give us the totally low brain version of Article 6, and what is it, and why are we all talking about it?
Article 6 is difficult and it's complicated. I think basically you have established within the Paris Agreement this Article 6 on market mechanisms, and it has 3 layers. It has one which is cooperation party to party. Then you establish, the other one is you establish a mechanism as such where you can have parties, companies and others having this market where you can basically exchange carbon offsetting. And then there's the third part, which is cooperation between parties as well, but with no trading in between. So more exchanging views or trying to do something like that. It's quite complicated. It's a big issue, and it's one of the issues that we will not finalize tomorrow. I can say that I'm quite sure it will go to political level. It is an important thing because it's part of the Paris Agreement. It's one of the 3 outstanding elements of the Paris Agreement. So of course it's important. To me, Article 13 might be even more important.
And what is that?
It's the reporting system, enhanced transparency framework. Because without this, we cannot measure anything. We can't report, we can't measure, we can't evaluate. We really need to have our reporting tables and systems on the way. It's very technical, but it's really important to me.
And that is also one thing I think you see here at COP26, that a lot of things are actually quite technical, And so I give you guys credit who do all the negotiations, because I could imagine that it's a lot of work.
That's why we have the experts as well.
Yeah.
I don't do all these technical issues,
No.
but there's a lot of experts working day and night on these issues.
Okay, great. So I will see if we can get Helsinki on the screen. I think we do. Hi, Helsinki.
Hi, Glasgow. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. We're so happy that you guys are with us now.
Yeah, finally, we are the ones who are the most happy here in Helsinki. Thank you so much for this talk. We've been following it with great interest. And with me here, I have Abby and Nadia, who have a few questions. Would you like to introduce yourselves first?
Hi, my name is Albjörg, or Abby. I'm a master's student in environmental and natural resources at the University of Iceland. And since you're a part of the Danish delegation, and of course, Denmark has one of the most ambitious mitigation targets worldwide, aiming for 70% by 2030, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask if you are using this target to push other nations, for example, in the Nordic region and in the EU, to go for more ambitious targets, because I know that I don't believe that the Icelandic target is ambitious enough, but 70% would be way better.
Yes, thank you for your question, and thank you for acknowledging our high ambitions. Yes, we do that. The EU has actually enhanced its national determined contribution as well. We did that last year, and Denmark has, I would like to say, we had a role in pushing the rest of not the rest of, but some of the member states at least to reach to this enhanced ambition of 55% reduction by 2030, which is quite ambitious if it's the EU as such. We also do by the way that we are here. We have this Nordic Pavilion, we have a Danish Pavilion as well, trying to showcase the Danish, the good stories of Denmark. How are we going beyond to have this green transition? What can we help with, especially on the wind? Of course, we have something to contribute with. We have some alliances that we are to present at this COP. We have something about, we are doing something on shipping, to have the shipping business go along as well. We have something on, we will launch a Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance later on this week. We have these, what is called, partnerships with the private sector, which is a part of our climate law in Denmark, where we actually hand it out to the private sector also to say how can they contribute, how can they set motion to it, and how can they contribute to the Danish, to our reaching of our ambitions goals. So we're trying to showcase, and we're trying to help, and we're trying to cooperate with others to tell this is how we do it. We would like to inspire, and we would like to cooperate if possible.
Great, thank you. So do we have another question?
Yeah, we do. Nadia, you had a question as well, right?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So my name is Nadia. I study global sustainability at the University of Helsinki. And you mentioned the rule book that should be now kind of finalized during this COP. I'm just wondering, what is the situation right now with that? Do you think you will get it done? How does it look?
I hope we will get it done. It looks, we have made progress in all three elements of the Paris Rulebook. I'm sure we're not going to finalize tomorrow because we are not there yet. As I said before, on this Article 13, on the enhanced transparency framework, there's a lot of technical stuff that needs to be completed before we can have the political discussions, and that takes time. So we will need more time, but there's progress. On Article 6 that we mentioned just before, we have progress as well. We still have some difficulties and we still have our differences, but I still hope we can land it, and we hope we'll have an ambitious mechanism. And the final part is the common timeframes for the national determined contributions. Basically, we are not going to discuss that any further. It's going for the political level because they need to decide for us. But I'm quite sure all these three elements will be some of the issues that we discuss at the very late hours. Hopefully on Friday next week. Hopefully not on Saturday. But it will be a piece of the final package. But still, I'm optimistic, yes.
Okay, that's really nice to hear. And I also wanted to ask that, I mean, I read, or I know that a lot of experts have been saying that this COP is especially important. And I'm just wondering if this is something you can kind of feel there in Glasgow, kind of people being more ambitious or I don't know, like somehow more eager to actually change and kind of bold in their decision making or like thinking, discussioning thing.
I think we felt it in the way that I said countries were actually ready to engage from the beginning, ready to engage on text and ready to discuss. We're still apart on some of the issues, but there is also a willingness to be more flexible and to look into compromises because we all want to have a good result of this COP. It goes both for the negotiations as such, but also this about the ambition of the COP. How can we actually keep the goals of the Paris Agreement alive, not just the temperature goal, but also on resilience and having a more sustainable world. So yes, I think there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of engagement, there's really a lot of people at this COP. I've been to more COPs, but this is by far the COP that we see most people, most action, most willingness to engage, and still being perhaps the most difficult to engage in the negotiations because of the restrictions we have here on the COVID. So it's a bit tricky to say that.
Thanks for your answers.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I think I will give the floor to the audience here in Glasgow in case anyone has any questions for the Danish head of delegates. I'm just looking around. Yeah, I see a couple of hands here. Yeah. Maybe you can introduce yourself before you ask the question.
Yes, hello, my name is Jan Christoph Napierski. I'm with the Maersk McKinney Møller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping in Copenhagen. And I have one question to you, because shipping is not part of the COP agreement. But how do you see you can send signals towards IMO and those negotiating also on the targets over there? Thank you.
I'll try to answer. I'm not that much into shipping because it's my colleagues who are dealing with it, but we will have an event where we are actually we will have an event where we are launching this, I think it's a coalition or something like that, as to setting ambitious targets within the sector of shipping as well, and then having this to go to the IMO and to push the IMO to actually be more ambitious as well. Because we have set quite ambitious targets in Denmark as well. We have Maersk, who's quite a big actor on this, and they have set a climate neutrality target. And we are trying to also, we need to have the shipping and also the other transport parts of the negotiations on board, because we cannot solve it without them having to do something. So it's more like we're trying to launch a coalition and cooperations and such, and then take it to the IMO and to say, well, listen, now you have to do something as well. But it's not my specialty, but that's what I can say for now.
Yeah, we have another question.
Thank you, Annette. I just thought, since you were enlightening us a bit about Article 6 and the rule book, it would be nice to hear a few words on the situation on finance and loss and damage, the status of that. And another question, since we are in the Nordic Pavilion, it would also be nice to hear you put a few words on how we can use the Nordic cooperation in this setting, since we have two different, 3 EU member states and 2 non-EU member states and different negotiation groups. So thank you.
Yeah. On the finance part, I think there's 2 issues there's a lot. I think that we have 22 agenda points on finance at this COP, but I'll only touch on 2, I guess. One of them is the 100 billion goal. Like we all know that we as donors have committed to jointly mobilize 100 billion a year from 2020 until 2025. And we're not quite there yet. But just before the COP, we did hand in this delivery plan as to how we're going to reach the goal and trying to be as honest as we can, as transparent as we can. This delivery plan and this that we haven't met the goal yet is going to be covered within this cover decision. I'm sure we're going to have some announcements as to that we will commit to it and we will still do what we can. I think from a Danish point of view, we have actually raised our climate finance, so we are trying to convince others to do it as well. The other part is this starting on the deliberations of the post-2025 goal on finance. We're not going to decide on it here, but we're trying to make a process as to how we are to design a new goal that we should learn from the 100 billion goal and the failures we had there, but also how can we design it in a way that it addresses the needs. And I think from a Danish perspective, we would really like it to address the needs of the most vulnerable, also have more focus on adaptation finance, for instance, but we are not there yet, but still we are discussing it. And there is some progress within the rooms as such on finance as well. The other part was adaptation. Or loss and damage. Okay, loss and damage, that's okay. We have the Santiago network, and we have to put it into force how it's supposed to work. And that's going okay as well, because we are going to deliver something, but probably we will only put up a process once more, but have to have the final decision at the next COP, which will be in Egypt, so that we can do it in a proper way. So we know how to decide and what to decide upon and stuff like that. But we have progress and we have actions on this one as well. At least that's my feeling right now, and I also hear it around here. The last part was the Nordic cooperation. I think, as you said, we have some EU member states within the Nordic Council of Ministers, and we have some who's not. But I still think we are quite similar. We don't have quite the same positions, but we are all ambitious and we want to do something and we want to see action. And for that we can cooperate together. We have meetings at my level with other negotiations groups, because we can, instead of just being the EU, we can actually explore it a bit further, being together with Iceland and Norway, who's outside the EU. And it gives us a platform to showcase, once again, the Nordic cooperation, the Nordic solutions, because I think we complement each other quite good. We're good in wind, Norway's good on water, others is good on solar energy and stuff like that. So for that, I think the Nordics has a good place to influence the negotiations, but also the solutions. I think that's what we can use it for.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the questions here in Glasgow, and thank you also very much in Helsinki. I can see there is a question in Helsinki.
Yes, we have a question here.
Yeah.
Annie, you had something.
Yeah, I was wondering, because there are, of course, some leaders of important nations that have a huge CO2 footprint that decided not to come to COP this year. Leaders of Russia, China, Brazil. Of course, we had the US coming back now, but I was wondering how this has affected the negotiations that those leaders are missing.
Yeah. I think for the negotiations, it hasn't affected that much because they are here for the negotiations, so they are still here. As for the Leaders Summit, I think it was quite clear that they were kind of singled out, if I can say it like that, to say it was a pity they're not here. They have to stand up to their responsibilities as well. There were strong calls to say you have to deliver more as well. Even though you're not here, you still have to enhance your ambitions, you have to come with more enhanced NDCs and long-term strategies, climate neutrality goals as such. So I do think the other leaders took this opportunity to say, well, we also have to recognize those who's not here, and also, I would say, blame them that they were not here and they have to step up. But I also do think that what we've seen from the rest of the world could hopefully put the pressure on them as well. So they cannot politically survive in standing outside for the whole time. So I think we have put a pressure on them, but of course it would have been better if they were here and having committed to the same kind of ambition as you've seen from others at this COP.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Annette. The time is running out, but it was so nice having you here, willing to answer all of our questions.
Yeah.
And so nice of you to be here with our first ever joint briefing together with Helsinki. These daily briefings, they will take place next week as well, together with Helsinki. So tune in or join us here in Glasgow or on site in Helsinki. Before we wrap up, I just quickly want to mention that tomorrow we also have another joint event together with Helsinki. It's our climate action talk show where we will discuss climate action both in the Nordics and outside of the Nordics. It takes place at 11 GMT here in Glasgow and then 2 hours later, so at 13 o'clock in Finland. So thank you everyone and have a great day.